Hello, I am Anissa and I'm a junior researcher at UNPAD SDGs Center. Has joined with us today is Christopher Hoy. He is a researcher at Overseas Development Institute. Hi Chris, thank you for your time.
Thanks for the chance to be able to speak.
Yeah, and he is also the discussant of our seminar today that discussed about the challenge and lessons of transitioning from MDGs to SDGs. Chris, so do you think that MDGs was a success?
Look, I think the MDGs' aim was to unite the global community to be able to focus discussion around development in a post-Cold War era.
Okay.
So was it successful on that front? Definitely. Did it take a number of years until it really got traction? Absolutely. But from the mid-2000s, that's when you really started to see people taking the MDGs seriously, and it was very successful in being the centre point to which discussion in development was hung around, really, particularly over the last 5 to 10 years.
Okay. So now SDGs has more goals. It has now 17 compared to what MDGs has 8. And then it also covered a broader aspect than MDGs. To what extent do you think is an advantage, or to what extent that this is a drawback?
Well, what I do believe is that one of the advantages of the MDGs was that it provided a prioritised agenda for development action. But it was a narrow view of what development is. It was more about multidimensional poverty and less about holistic development.
Okay.
The SDGs are the opposite way around, where we see 169 targets across 17 goals, 230 indicators.
Okay.
It's a very comprehensive view of development. But what it does have in being comprehensive is it doesn't have a list of priorities, which will make it challenging for a lot of countries to know how to best implement the SDGs. But I'm confident, given the traction that the SDGs have, the buy-in, given that it was a collaborative process over a number of years across all countries, I'm confident that as long as countries implement the SDGs in the first 1,000 days and really genuinely see resources allocated towards it, I really do believe that it's quite promising and a better way to approach an international development agenda than the narrow view of the MDGs provides of development.
So SDGs, although it's ambitious goals, but it's feasible, right?
Look, I think that it's definitely ambitious, and some goals are really going to require business as usual to change. Business as usual will not get us to the goals, and that's part of what the ODI report, which we produced, is actually highlighting.
Okay, so talk about your ODI report. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah. So what this Overseas Development Institute report does is it says, look, the SDGs create an ambitious vision for what the world will look like in 2030. How much will current trends need to change to be able to attain this vision? That's the central question of the ODI report. And what we show is we show that if current trends continue, none of the goals will be met. However, some goals will come very close, but other goals, current trends are actually heading in the completely opposite direction. Given that's the case, I really believe that the purpose of the report highlights that all the goals require a change in business as usual. Some really require a huge degree of effort to turn around the current trends, to really accelerate the current trends, while others highlight that maybe it's more about trying to reform and trying to nudge the current trajectory over the end, whereas other ones really require dramatic change. So that's the purpose of the ODI report. Just to be clear on the methodology, what we do is we source data from all the leading international organisations that produce data across 17 goals. We pick one target based upon availability of data and how well that target represents the overall essence of the goal. And we look at what the trend has been over the last 10 years and project that forward to 2030.
Okay. For the case of Indonesia, in case of we have to change from business to usual and find a better trajectory, what do you think is the opportunity and the challenge of Indonesia in achieving SDGs?
Okay, so I'll start with the challenges. So what the report which ODI has produced shows is that for some of the goals, Indonesia's very close to almost reaching the SDG if it continues current trends, whereas others, it needs to change its trajectory. Some of those others are in regards to inequality. So a lot of resources, a great deal of effort is going to be required to change the inequality trajectory in Indonesia. It's actually performance in regards to the bottom 40% growth relative to the average, which is one of the key targets of inequality in the SDGs. That is among the worst in the world. So that really needs to change for Indonesia. So it's a big challenge. I think a big opportunity is actually in regards to health and education goals. I particularly want to focus on education in regards to secondary school completion. Indonesia has clearly prioritised education, providing 20% of the government budget towards education. Now, if the country was going to meet any of the SDG goals, which would be a truly monumental success, I really believe it would be secondary school completion for all people. And the government is prioritising this, it's putting the resources towards it, and I think that's a great opportunity for Indonesia to excel on a goal that is quite ambitious, and it would set Indonesia apart from the rest of the world and really highlight it as a leader in terms of secondary school completion among all developing countries.
Okay. So Chris, today you speak in university, right? In your opinion, what do you think that how this community, the research community, university and academia can contribute to achieve SDGs in 2030?
I think it really comes down to partnership with policymakers, with not-for-profit organisations, even private sector entities, and genuinely saying what does an SDG look like, sort of implementing the SDG agenda in your community, in your country, whether it be in your region. Ask those questions of what that looks like, and then really trying to hone in on what are the research questions, what analysis needs to be done to be able to answer some of the things we don't know now. And so take, for example, I'll highlight the inequality issue, something I'm very passionate about. I think that there needs to be more research that's done in regards to how inequality is perceived, and thinking about how inequality can be addressed based upon, say, public support for addressing inequality, and scope within that area. There needs to be more research and analysis done so that policymakers can have a better idea of how do we tackle the challenge of inequality, how do we shift people's sort of preferences so that addressing inequality is something that we all take seriously, and what government policies need to change given what we do know about inequality. So there's an example whereby I really think that research and analysis needs to be done so that policymakers and NGOs and also the private sector know the best way how to move forward on achieving the SDGs.
So research-based policy, right?
Yeah, well, evidence-based policy is,
right.
I think, absolutely essential, and it's important that these questions are asked, but potentially even more important that those questions are answered in a way that is directly useful for policymakers.
Okay, thank you, Chris, for your time.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, that's all. And to see this video, you can visit the SDGs UNPAD YouTube channel, and don't forget to visit our website. Thank you.